Build a beautiful to-do list SwiftUI app. So this is the application we'll be creating today. As you can see, it allows the user to filter on the list. At the moment, the list has 3 records in there. So if I type in L, then it filters on all the records. That includes the letter L. And we can also rearrange the records in the list. To do that, all you have to do is click on the edit button on the top right hand corner, and then you can rearrange your records as what I'm doing here. And then if you want to delete a record from the list, you just click on done and you just swipe from the right and it will delete a record. And if you want to update the status of a record, for example, you've done it, you've completed the task, or some other action has happened, you can just click on it and then it crosses out the record. So what else will we be doing? Oh yeah, and also this feature. If you type in a record that's not in the list, it will show a no results view. So this is the actual feature we'll be creating in this tutorial. The first thing we need to do is to define a struct. So within your SwiftUI project, create a new Swift file, hold down the control key, and then select new file, select Swift file, enter the file name, which will be called task item, click on create, import SwiftUI, and then the next thing we need to do is to define our struct, which is called task item. And the purpose of task item is to enable the application to hold an array of tasks. Each task includes an ID, an auto-generated ID, a unique ID. Each task includes a title and also is done, which is a status variable that will signify if the task is completed or done or pending. The next thing we need to do is to head over to our content view. And then within our content view, we need to add the following variables: at state, private var task. As I said a minute ago, that will hold an array of task items. And these task items will be hard-coded. So this is the first element or the first record for our array. We don't need the ID attribute, we just need title, so the first task is learn Swift UI lists. The second task item add, delete, move item. The third item, task item, mark item as done. But in the real world, these records would be retrieved from an API or some type of database. The next thing we need to do is to add another @state variable, private var new title, which is string. And the purpose of that variable is to hold the text typed into the new task field. And then we also need another @state variable, private var query string. And that variable's purpose is to hold the current search text from the search bar, which will look like this when we create it. That's the search bar. And there. The next thing we need to do, we need to create a computed property that returns tasks after applying the search filtering. Private var filtered tasks, task item, guard, not query, trimming characters, dot white spaces, and new lines. Is empty. Else return tasks. So what that does, if the search is empty, show all tasks. And then the next thing we need to do is to type in return task.filter $0 dot title dot localize case insensitive contains, and then we pass in our query. So what that line will do, it will just return the results that relates to our query. The next thing we need to do is to start to implement our UI, our view. So we need to create a navigation stack. and also a group. If filtered task is empty, so if the filter tasks are empty, so there's no tasks to show, then we need to display an error on the screen. I made a mistake. On lines 22, it shouldn't be this closing bracket, it should be those curvy ones. That one. And also at the end of line 22, we need the closing bracket. Don't know what happened there. So that should be, let me bring this one up to the previous line. Well, let's see if we can fix it later. So if it's empty, that means we have to show a view to the user that no results can be returned or doesn't satisfy the query that the user is looking for. So we need to use content on available view, which is the third overload, this one here, that includes the title and the image and the description. So we just type in query dot is empty. So if it's empty, then we just display no tasks yet. Else, no results. No, that's wrong. Where should that go? I think the colon should be here. And then we type in no results. And then for the description, it will be query dot is empty. Oh, we missed out the system image. The system image should be checklist. And then we also need a question mark. Add your first task below. or try, and it should be, let me just delete that below. Or try. So the next thing we need to do is to add some padding. Which is dot horizontal. So this is the view that we're trying to create. This view here, no results view. Try a different search. Else, if data has been retrieved, then we attempt to populate our list. Our list includes a section for each. So we loop through the filtered results or the filtered tasks. And then to find the actual task or to retrieve the actual task to be displayed within the list, we need to get the index of that task. So we can just type in if let id index equals task dot filter, dot first index where $0.0.id is equal to item.id. And what that will do, it will find the task index in the array. And is there something missing? Yeah, we also need an opening bracket. And then the next thing we need to do is to create a Hstack. With spacing of 12 pixels. And then within the Hstack, we need to show our image, which is system name task. We get the actual image from the array. It's done. Else, if that cannot be retrieved, we show a check mark circle dot fill image or circle. And then we need to change the image size by using image scale.large. Image scale.large. And also we need to assign the foreground style for the image. Tasks, it should be the index, and it should be tasks. We'll get the element on the array is done. If it's done, we display secondary, or we use a secondary style or primary. And either of those styles will work correctly in light mode as well, in light or dark mode. So what else do we need? So what have we done so far? So the next thing we need to do is to display the title of the task. So get the title of the task using, from our index. Got title. And then we need to style the font. Body.weight. Task. Index. So that should be IDX. It's done. Question mark. Regular. Or medium. And the next thing we need to do is to create a strike through. So when the user is done with any of these tasks, they will see a strike through, as you can see in this image here. So to do that, we just type in the following, which is dot strike through task the index is done. Foreground style task and the index is done. So if it's done, then the Foreground color will be secondary. If it's not done, it will be primary. So what that line does, it just dims the text based on the status, if the task is done or not. And then we just need to include a spacer just to push the content to the left and to fill the remaining spaces. So the next thing we need to do is we need to add some padding, which will be some vertical padding, dot vertical 10, and then we need to add some horizontal padding, dot horizontal 12. And the purpose of using a horizontal padding is to create a card fill. And we also need to add a background behind the row content. So that'll be rounded rectangle, corner, radius 14, style, continuous. And then we just use fill dot thin material. What else do we need? So to make the entire row tappable, where is it now? The list. Yeah, for example, to make the entire row tappable, as you can see here, we need to use a content shape, rectangle, so that the user can tap or select anywhere on this row. They can tap here at the beginning, the middle, the end, a few pixels from the right, a few pixels from the left. So we need to create a content shape rectangle. So let's do that now. And we need to add that after line 60. Content shape, rectangle. So that will make the whole area of that row tappable. And we also need to use on tap gesture. And the on tap gesture will execute when that row has been tapped. Just type in pass idx is done dot toggle, and then the next thing we need to do is to hide the default list row line, because hiding the default list row line makes the list looks a little bit more professional. So to do that, we need to type the following: dot list row separator, and then type dot hidden, and then we have to make sure we change the background to clear, so that it's list row background dot clear, so the background will be transparent. So what else do we need to do now? So we also need to enable the user to delete a task from the list, and we'll implement that feature in next week's tutorial.